How long are the open mind sex? It's not sex.
Open mind sex.
Open mind sex. There we go.
Change
the subject.
Wow, what type of podcast is this? I'm curious, do you tell jokes in the courtroom?
You know, more than I should.
Words matter, and now tonality matters as well, right? And if we're communicators, we're putting our message out to the world. How we say it, it matters as much because it will carry emotion.
I'm sure I'll never say anything in my entire life that's worth remembering. But I am making people feel a certain way, whether it's my kids, whether it's, wife, girlfriend, friends, you guys. That's going to be more important because that's how you think about me and maybe even how you think about yourself.
What are some of the ways that you look into previously done things to improve?
Baseball players, for example, they fail more often than they succeed, right? If you bat 300 your whole career, you're going to go in the Hall of Fame. Whereas in lawyering, if I told my clients, by the way, I fail 70% of the time, hire me.
We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I
Luis.
know you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast. Guys, if you're enjoying this show, go ahead and follow in your favorite platform and on social media at BizBrosCo.
That is right. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode. And, of course, don't forget to leave a 5-star review.
That's right. Today we got a special episode. We have one of our studio podcast with clients as a guest.
Woohoo! He is a philanthropist that has raised over $2 million for his charity Free to Run, which all his running puts all of my brother's tough mothers to shame.
Not only that, but he's a father to 5, all while working for one of the biggest law firms in Florida and crushing the stage at comedy shows with his Free to Laugh comedy series.
That's right. Please welcome the host of Your First Rodeo and good friend, Mike Freed.
Hey, wow, that's the best intro I've ever got. Thank you, guys.
We are trying to sell ourselves so we can intro you into your comedy shows. We'll get everybody hyped up and then...
I'll take it. I'm usually the first up, so I kind of self-introduce. This was amazing.
There we go. We'll be the, 0.5 up. I don't know, how would you call it? But...
It'd be an improvement.
Yeah, we need to take some improv classes before we actually go do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my wife says I'm not funny, but I'm convinced I am funny.
Yeah.
Some days.
If we make you laugh today, he said he will go on stage on open mic.
You can make me laugh. I've already been
On
laughing.
open mic.
I'll bring you guys out for an open mic. You should come out sometime.
There's no way.
Yeah, I need to work on a little minute. I need to work on some script, some. Do people just jump in there and improvise, or?
Some. That doesn't usually turn out very well.
Yeah.
Like some people think they have something funny to say, and they might. You might be funny at the family dinner or around the table, but being funny on a stage, usually in a very compressed period of time, like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, they'll start a story and they'll be just barely scratching the surface when their time's up. So sometimes people, lightning in a bottle, they're funny just out of the gate, but very infrequently.
How long are the open mind sex? It's not sex.
Open mind sex.
Open mind sex. There we go.
Change
the subject.
Wow, what type of podcast is this?
That's what's gonna happen.
You might be funny with that.
There we go. See. Okay, I guess I have an open mic spot. No, I'm kidding. The open mic set.
Right.
How long is it?
It depends where you are. I mean, locally, say in Northeast Florida, 5 minutes would probably be a typical open mindset.
I'm just loving it, this guy.
And in fairness, for your guests, we all should be open-minded about sex. That's your point, right?
True that.
That's hilarious. I love when Spanish gets in the way. When the language barrier gets in the way in the most awkward moments.
Yeah.
This is beautiful.
I mean, I think I mentioned this last
you guys speak Spanish? No.
Sometime, I don't know. I mean, Fonzie speaks Mexican. He lived with like 6 Mexicans in
We'll
Texas.
try, yeah. It was awesome. It was a great experience, let me tell you.
But last time you were here, I remember telling you about this show that I've been obsessed with. It's called Kill Tony, right? Fonzie introduced me to it.
In Austin,
Yeah, and they do they pull out a bucket and it's 1 minute, right?
Right.
And it seems so frightening and so scary.
Yeah.
At the same time, so to plan that minute, and I keep an eye on Tony, right? He's coaching these people, right, on how to do it. You gotta write, you gotta put in the reps, you gotta, you're gonna suck. It's part, and I see a lot of parallels, right, with publishing, right, like. Clearly, we still suck. I just made a massive mistake here, which is fine. Right. It's okay. We laughed about it and we move forward. But I remember the first few episodes, right? And I remember a lot of the people on our clients here in the studio and all over, when they start publishing, that's a very real thing, right? So obviously you come from, I guess, is it a corporate world, right?
Yeah, very much corporate world and the law side of things.
Exactly. And now you have an incredible podcast that we kind of inherited with the studio, which I really love. And then you also do comedy. How was that transition for you? Like, was it natural? Did it come natural?
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a weird mentality where I don't mind jumping into things with both feet and, being a little impulsive. Obviously, the law, generally speaking, doesn't reward that type of behavior. You have to be very careful and methodical and detailed. So, that part was different. But, there's an extroverted part of lawyering. I'm a litigator, so being out in front, trying cases. But there, there's similarities and there's differences. You really do have to be willing to suck for a while. But the tension, and I think it's probably the same, with podcasts and with a lot of the outward-facing things that you guys and your listeners are part of, you need to get butts in seats. You need to get listeners. You need your friends and family coming to see you so that you can have a value proposition.
Yeah.
But you may not be good at first. So that's a tension because, in comedy, you will get gigs if you can get people to come see you. But then there's other comedians, especially the more established ones, who say you shouldn't invite anyone to see you for the first 2 years. So,
wow.
But of course, if especially in a smaller town, you're not going to be able to keep doing comedy unless you can get people to come see you. So you got to try to get good quicker, and then also make your material fresh because. Unlike musicians who, play other people's songs or play their own songs, but play them, at every set, nobody wants to come hear a comedian tell the same jokes, week after week. So you got to freshen things up.
Yeah, by talking about freshening things up and having a lot of reps, I'm relating this right now. I'm on a poker kick, right?
Okay.
Like I'm enjoying playing poker, learning poker,
right.
And one of the
Did you
things.
win any money last week?
I haven't played. I didn't play it last week, but last time I did take all your money, and I took my money back because I lent it to you, and then I beat you and got it back. But that being said, one of the things that they're talking in that world is that now players get better quicker because they're able to play multiple hands online. Right, and they're just playing and playing, and they're exposed to so much information that technically the good players improve faster,
right.
Rather than go and playing in person and only doing 30 hands an hour in comparison to literally hundreds of hands an hour. So now talking about that kind of exposure, I feel like it could potentially be the same with comedy and social media. Right, people now can try skits faster and have a quick feedback loop. And then, test material and then go in person where you got to get, butts in seats,
right,
and perform those good bits. Have you seen anything like that? Have you tried anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be willing. I mean, you're kind of talking about the fail fast concept, right? Which is kind of in vogue in a lot of areas. And yeah, I mean, comedy, you guys were athletes. You guys were soccer players. Your listeners probably know. Looking at me won't surprise you listeners that I was not an athlete. I was in debate club and doing, things that were not as
dangerous with words.
Yeah, I guess.
You're a mind athlete.
That's a superpower, man.
I'm a mind sex is what I was doing. I was only having sex in my mind.
I'm suspicious that he's going to make it to your set at some point.
Maybe.
There we go.
I know this guy Luis. He's got a brother named Luis. But the point is, baseball players, for example, they fail more often than they succeed, right? If you bat 300 your whole career, you're going to go in the Hall of Fame. Whereas in lawyering, if I told my clients, by the way, I fail 70% of the time, hire me, that's not a good average.
Yeah.
Comedy is one of those things that I feel like it's athletic in the sense or courageous in the sense that you're going to fail. You're going to fail with the same joke one night. Might succeed, it's going to fail the next. Some nights you're going to get up, you're going to tell 10 jokes, and they're all going to fail, and you got to tell the first one, fail, tell the second one as if you're going to hit a home run with it.
Yeah.
And so, you get those reps in, you tweak a word here or there, or you abandon a joke that's not working, and you do have the opportunity to keep going. The problem is if you're actually putting content out on the internet, and assuming it doesn't ever go away, your crappy stuff is going to stay out there forever. And if your crappy stuff is, stuff that could get you in trouble or get you canceled or that doesn't age very well, there's that problem as well.
I think it's part of the journey, though, having the bad stuff, not necessarily the stuff that's going to get you in trouble, right? But like your bad material out for people to see as well and then experience your journey, right? Like we talk about it with podcasting, which is somebody might find you on your episode 500, right? And then they're going to go back. It's like, oh, let me see how these guys were on their first episode.
Right.
And that can actually serve as motivation for some people, right? Because they might go in and listen to that first episode and they're like, wow, they were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're still kind of bad, but they have improved a little bit, right? Like
less terrible.
Yeah, they're less terrible. Like, but now they're willing to give you a chance. But I feel like at the same time, that helps with relatability, right? People are going to feel a little connected to you.
I like that idea. I think that's right. I mean, my first 10 episodes of the My First Rodeo podcast was doing in my living room or my dining room without the benefit of your studio, so that the sound quality is not as good. It's a little tinnier. It's not as well produced. But I like to think that folks that are listening to the more recent episodes and are inclined to go back, they'll be like, oh, it's kind of quiet. I mean, it was the same model, had some good guests out of the gate, but, it was a little tinnier. But it's sweet. It's like, whatever, the Beatles' first albums or something.
That was exactly going to be my comparison.
Me and the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
And that's what people do. I'm the Beatles of podcasting. Not at all.
I love it. The capture presentation that we did a couple of weeks ago on that event, we talked a lot about feedback loops, right? Mm-hmm. And, when you're not presented or you don't see the feedback on whatever content we're producing, or, if you put something out there to the world, it's hard to improve, right? At the end of the day, because like you're probably from the inside out. So it's very important that we go see like what's the good content doing, what's the bad content. Sometimes we put an episode out that we think like, hey, we did the worst. This might not be a thing, and we get surprised that people react in a very positive way. Right. So we're like, why did they react that way, right? And then you start digging and you start learning things. So for content specifically, a podcast feedback loop can take a couple of days, right? For a short, it can take, maybe minutes or hours, depending on like how the platform presents it. Now, when, you're in the courtroom or even in a comedy show, right, you get feedback loops immediately in a sense, right? And it's, to me, like I always imagine being in that spot in a way, especially like on the comedy side, right? It's like, wow, you say this thing that you expect people to go and laugh and have a reaction, and then people don't.
Sure.
And there's like 200 people in front of you, right? Or 20 people or 10 people, whatever it is, right? So mentally, how do you deal with that? Do you block yourself from that, or how do you receive that feedback? Do you adapt immediately? Like, what are some things? Because obviously that's a very extreme case because you're on a stage in person, right? But maybe there's a framework that we can extract from there for people that are publishing maybe their content, their original ideas that they put out to the world, whether that's a business stuff or a passion, right? How do you deal with that in the comedy side and then also in the courtroom, right? Are they different? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's certainly differences, but at its core, it's being aware of your audience, and then also being self-aware but not self-obsessed. Right, so you have to sort of know how you're being perceived and what you're trying to achieve. You have to have a sense of how your audiences are reacting. In a courtroom, it could be a judge, it could be a jury, it could be your client, it could be the media. Yeah. In a comedy club, obviously, you pretty much have the audience, but you also have to sort of see yourself. How you're being perceived by them. So, but you could take that too far, right? I mean, if you're constantly fixing your hair or tucking in your shirt or fixing your tie, or it leads you to stutter or have some sort of a nervous tic, then it goes too far. So, you just have to be conscious with comedy. Of course, you want to record it a lot, not necessarily to preserve it, but just to listen to it right afterwards. And a lot of times you'll get back and you realize, I said the wrong word there. No wonder they didn't laugh. I was supposed to say not before that, and I didn't say not. And so they heard the exact opposite, whereas you're thinking you're killing it. So, just being aware. Comedy's kind of fun because if I'm opening up for a national headliner, say at the Comedy Zone, I'll do 5 shows in 3 days. So maybe a show Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. And that's a real treat because you get to do your set, and then watch the headliner come up, and then you get another fresh audience. You come back and you do the same jokes generally.
Yeah.
But you say, well, what didn't work last time, and you really get a chance to try it out again. In a courtroom, obviously, you don't generally get a second chance. But you do have to be aware of all those audiences. You have to be respectful of the process. There's a lot of rules to work within in a courtroom. And, you like to think that it's not a popularity contest there. It's more about the facts and the law. But the truth is, a great lawyer or a relatable lawyer can really win a jury or a fact finder over, especially in gray areas where the truth maybe is unclear. Yeah. And a really bad lawyer or someone that has no people skills can lose even a good case. So, it's knowing your audience and then knowing yourself and adding those two together in the right circumstances. Every lawyer is not right for every case, and every comedian is not right for every audience or every comedy club. So I'm mostly a clean comic, so there's going to be certain audiences that will like that, and then other audiences where, I probably shouldn't be there. It's just not the right audience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I was looking at your reels right now. I like your bid on the DoorDash. That was funny.
Which one?
The DoorDash one. Yeah, how people's food marinate in their cars. You don't really know what there's inside. It's like, oh yeah, that is true. Never DoorDashing again.
I was inspired by my mom, who said she was going to use DoorDash to avoid the germs in a rrestaurant. I was like, Mom, have you ever seen the inside of a DoorDash driver's car? That's, good for you.
yeah, definitely. Definitely got me thinking, which is pretty good. I'm curious, do you tell jokes in the courtroom?
More than I should. I'm sarcastic by nature, which is a great thing to have in circumstances where it's valued, and it's a really obnoxious thing to have, as my ex-wife told me, in circumstances where it's not valued. Like, she didn't get sarcasm, didn't like sarcasm. She's an immigrant, and I don't know, it just didn't translate well. And she didn't like me, so that probably didn't help either. But among the things she didn't like about me, she did not like my sarcasm. Courtroom at work sometimes, like in a jury selection, this huge group of people come in. It's tense, it's uncomfortable, they don't want to be there. So I like to think if you could just do something a little human. I had a jury to pick not too long ago, and they say you're supposed to ask a question of each potential juror, so you don't make any of them feel left out. And I had gotten to the last one. I only had a little bit of time left, and whatever her number was, juror number 21, you saw on her questionnaire she was a hairdresser, and I said, juror number 21, I'm supposed to ask everybody a question. What do you think of my hair? She laughed, and everybody laughed, and I'm bawled for your listeners that aren't looking at me. So it was, funny. And I don't, sometimes they can think you're obnoxious, and that's you don't know. I've just met these people for the first time. Yeah, absolutely. And they're not expecting sarcasm. Yeah. So if they value that, I've won them over in a minute. Yeah. And if they hate sarcasm and don't like being, it can feel like you're being made fun of, right? Yeah. Yeah, so, absolutely. But there's a lesson in there, especially when we're talking in the context of content, which is you're going to be in people's feeds that are getting to know you for the very first time. Right. And your content might not be for them. And they might see you and they say, who's this obnoxious guy, right? Or what does this guy know about podcasting? I don't want to listen to this guy. And they just swipe right and they go to the next one. And I think like a lot of people get stuck in their heads thinking, what if people have all these negative thoughts when I publish my content, right? And that stops them in their track from taking action. It's the same thing that you're just mentioning. What is this? I mean, with comedy, you probably get so much judgment, and some people laugh, some people not laugh. Whatever it is, part of the deal, rather. And the same is with content, having that mindset. But I remember maybe like a month ago or so, we really got a very hated like review on the show, right? Okay. And for people to review podcasts, it's not as easy as pressing one button, right? You have to go into the platform, you got to click this, and there's like several step process, right? They had to really hate you. I know, Miss Karen. I can't remember her name now, but it was like a very detailed. I'm gonna say it was mostly towards him. Right. Towards me. They said Luis, so I know it was him. They didn't say Posse. But definitely justified, whatever the comment was. Yeah. And I owe an episode of like the lessons from that, because it's super interesting. Like that deters a lot of people. It got me heated, not because of the comments, because we don't care. Like we've done this for a long time. Sure. But
something like that. Wow, Fonzie.
I might do a cookie right now.
Did you make more noise with that cookie?
I just put the paper right in the microphone.
You said we were going to fight over the cookie, and now, while
he's
you're
just
way
eating
over
it.
there with the cookie, I can't do anything about it.
Wow.
Sorry about that.
You're not sharing?
I thought I heard it was I could eat it all. So.
We can eat the crumbs out of his beard.
Yeah, that's on you, Mike. It's all you, my man. Not going there.
All right, so this lady didn't like you.
But yeah, so, and that's, for a lot of people, that's a big fear. It's like, well, I'm going to put my message out there, right? And then there's going to be these random people, I don't know who they are. We call them keyboard warriors, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because they're so brave behind it.
Right.
But at the same time, the comments that she was saying was, hey, like the host, where they were also sharing too much of their story. They were sharing too much about them.
Oh.
And I think it was an amazing investor that came that day to the interview. And we're going back and forth, right?
Right.
And then to the point that we're just sharing, part of our journey is that we're also sharing our story here for a lot of people to learn from our mistakes and the things that we've done. So it's not an interview, it's really a conversation that we're having. So that's why I was at peace. As soon as I saw that, I just started laughing. I was like, well, this is actually a great lesson. And we should talk about this stuff. So I want to encourage every creator out there that is also your story, your message.
Right.
And the people on the other side might not have the full background on what you're doing, right? They might be just seeing the tip of the iceberg. And, you know, we're talking about clips earlier, right? About these comedians that there might be like a bit or something that they do on social and that helps them move forward in their careers. But they've also working on their craft for so many years at the same time. And then it's like, okay, how do we maximize that little iceberg moment that we can have on social or content or whatever to then move forward? But so...
And it's a fair observation. I was just thinking about your listener who made that comment because, you know, you want different things out of different podcasts. Like I listened to WTF with Mark Maron, one of the first podcasts really out there, and when I started listening to, and he's very self-indulgent, but it's his followers. I'm one of them. And so, you know, if he's interviewing, you know, whatever, President Obama or Ben Kingsley, I still want to hear his story in the midst of their story. But then I listened to Smartless with, you know, 3 other celebrities interviewing one celebrity. I feel like just my particular taste, they tend to overpower the guests because they've all got their stories. There's 3 of them, which is probably a lot of hosts. And but, you know, it's not wrong or right. I mean, each of those podcasts are very successful, and I want different things out of each of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's like
Then
probably
what,
every
finish
comedian.
that cookie?
Yeah, destroy that thing.
Wow.
It was so good.
Inhale it?
Shout out to my girlfriend. I love you. Clip this part and send it to her. So, I mean, you were talking about, I totally forgot now with the cookie stuff.
Yeah, the negative lady.
The negative lady. But I had a comment on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah,
You swallowed it with a cookie.
Right, no, went off with the cookie. Well,
we agree or disagree.
all right, I remember now. You were talking about the different podcasts, different hosts, different type of shows. Like that's a big factor too, right? Is personality. Like some people are just gonna connect more with a certain type of personality than other ones, right? Something that we've noticed in this show is that some comedians, right, in Kill Tony, some comedians come out and they're, you know, all flashy and loud and they have this sort of personality. And then some other ones that just come in and they're like low energy, you know, like, and they're hilarious as well.
Sure.
And you can kind of even hear like different parts of the crowd laughing. It's like, oh, this person, you know, appeals more to this group of people and this other person appeals more to like this other group of people. And I find that interesting because as we move on this content world, one of the things that I feel we're more convinced every single time is the value of personality. Like the person behind the microphone, right? The person that is sharing the stories. Like their personality is going to attract a certain amount of people, right? And a certain type of people. And, you know, sadly, there's also some people that have no personality at all. Right. And they go in there and they're like, oh my gosh, we call them pan sin sal, right? Like bread without salt.
Huevos sin sal.
Huevos sin sal.
Without salt.
No, pan sin sal.
Bro.
Well, I don't know. Well, maybe I don't even know my own country sayings.
I didn't even know there was salt in bread. So
yeah.
There you go.
I don't know.
What are you eating, Madison? Why are you feeling fancy?
I don't know. I've been eating too much. All right.
It's all about food.
all about food. Yeah. But I did wanted to kind of like change a little bit the topic, right? Not still kind of like our own comedy, but you know, previously you talked about reflecting on your own set, and I think that's one of the honestly main mistakes people that produce content don't really do, which is going back and listening to their own stuff and then saying, wow, I have these behaviors during the podcast that I do, or, X, Y, and Z that I could improve. Maybe I'm not starting with the right hook. What about next time I start, with the right hook? I think that's an incredible skill. What are some things, maybe as a comedian, or even, you're a content creator, a podcaster, what are some of the ways that you look into, previously done things to improve?
Yeah, I mean, one real obvious one, and I've noticed this more than anything on podcasts, hopefully I'm not doing it here, is the use of ums and uhs. You never hear yourself doing them when you're speaking the first time. But when you go back and listen, and I don't know, I mean, we all tolerate a certain amount of that from each other. It can even be a little charming, depending on who the person is, and, you get older.
If you're rubbing, fingers and stuff. Say,
twirling your mustache. But that's a good one that you really don't notice you're doing it excessively until you listen to it. It's hard to control. As I just did, but so that's one. There's talking over guests is certainly something that you can miss, and again, that can be fun and conversational, or it can be just annoying if you're literally not letting the interviewee get comments out. Sometimes you listen, and either I'll notice it or someone else will notice it. But if you would have shut up there, he or she was just about to say something really cool, and you offered your own example. And lost that opportunity. So those are the kind of nuances that in real time I think I tend to miss. Comedy, it's a matter of, did I say the right word? Sometimes the most beautiful things happen because, again, comedy for the most part is scripted, but it's meant to look like it's not scripted. And so you'll tell the joke a particular way, but for whatever reason, something magical happens that night where you throw in something different, or someone from the audience says something and you play off of it, and it just gets a lot funnier. And then you try to capture that lightning in a bottle and use it again. I think that's where the most positive developments can come out of comedy.
Yeah, so definitely the magic sex sections. That's definitely gonna be something moving forward.
Yeah, you can find those in OnlyFans.
Right. That's the other Luis.
But I had a great idea because we have a story with the ums, right? Like when I first came to college.
You love this story.
I love this.
At this point, I'm saturated of that story, but share the story.
But there might be some new people that don't know. But
I don't know it.
But I'll do it fast, right? First class is speaking in UNF, right? And we had about 30 people in the room, and they're like, "Hey, prepare a 3-minute presentation about whatever you want." So I'm like, "Oh, this is easy. I'm gonna talk about Venezuela, right?" So I just put a slide with a bunch of pictures, and I was gonna talk about each of the pictures. Did not write anything. I was just going off the cuff from the picture that was there. So I was one of the last ones, and the professor had a counter and sitting next to her. And anyways, people are like 10 ums, 15 ums, 5 ums, right? And everybody's like, oh, crap. And I think the last one, like the top ums was like 20, right? So I go on and I do my thing, and in my head I'm like, wow, this is great. Like, it's flowing amazing. I love what I'm doing. And obviously this is now this is like 11 years ago, right?
Right.
And finished the presentation, and I noticed the professor engaged on it, right? So as I'm talking, I see she's engaged, the students are engaged. So I'm like, this is going great. Anyway, she asked the person next to her, she's like, how many ums? And he just looks at the professor like, 120 ums.
Whoa.
And we're both like, what? In shock. I was, that's not true. And she's like, I got him here. Like the sheet full of little dots, right? And there was a lesson, right? At the end of the day, for me, the lesson was, that's not going to stop me from saying the thing, because I was being engaging in different ways, but at the same time, great feedback to be able to do it, right? So I wrote here, new contest for those listening. Mm-hmm. New contest. Count our ums.
I already, I started.
You started?
I started 2 seconds ago. You got 2 ums so far.
Count
but he was talking about
and if for the full episode.
I didn't count those. I didn't count the ones where he mentioned
the deliberate ums.
I have to don't say I was like, all right, I'll excuse that one.
Let's go ahead. You scream. But then send us your number on social media or an email, whatever, right at the bottom of the notes. And if it's as close as possible, we'll have a prize for you.
You will get the voice of Luis saying on your answering machine.
That's right. Maybe we'll do something a little bit more fun. Maybe
this is Luis. I can't come to the phone.
To the phone. But one of the things, obviously I've been more aware of that, things like that, and it helps you improve, right? to me, I also speak very fast. That's a lot of people say me that.
Say me.
They say you that?
they say to me, and I've been trying to make it a little bit slower. Doesn't work most of the time, but it's okay. What's that balance for you? Like, how do you find the balance? How do you lean into you fully you, or do you listen and grow from that and adapt? Right?
Yeah, I think that's right. In comedy, it's important to let jokes breathe as well. And if you're nervous or if the first couple jokes bomb, a lot of times I'll start rushing. But I notice if you just wait a little bit, particularly if it's a bigger room. I mean, if it's a theater, you need to wait for the laughs to come from the back of the room to the front. So you really do have to find something to do, whether it's fidgeting or looking like you're fidgeting or drinking water or something, to give everybody an equal chance to hear the joke, react to the joke. But if you just rush in, a lot of times you'll not give the audience a chance. Sometimes I try to tell intellectual jokes. Sometimes they take, a little bit of thinking, I hope. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to put silence there, because if nothing comes, it's really, really painful.
You just walk out.
But sometimes you pause. It feels like 5 minutes, but it's probably a half a second. Yeah. And that's just enough time for the audience. Like somebody laughs, and then somebody else laughs about that laughing, and all of a sudden the entire audience is laughing. Whereas if you just rush to the next joke, afterwards somebody might say, that was a really funny joke you told. I was like, well, why the hell didn't you laugh?
You didn't give me a chance.
Yeah. I don't know that they know that, but I know that that's one of the things I need to work more on, is pausing. I started telling jokes, or at least I was getting busy with it just when the pandemic hit. So for about a year and a half, comedy clubs were closed, nobody was going out, and there were Zoom comedy shows, which were horribly painful, and anybody that had been doing it for a while just said, no, I'm not doing Zoom comedy.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart enough to say no, so I did it, and I think I grew a lot as a comedian then, because basically you were getting no reaction. Most people had their microphones off. Sometimes it was a full room of people on Zoom. You kind of looked to see if they were laughing. But for the most part, you just sort of got your timing down as if there were people laughing. Yeah. And I think when I came out of that, I came out a little stronger, certainly stronger than if I had just done no comedy for a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. That is very, very interesting. We actually had a guest previously, real quick, on this topic of the pause. Mm-hmm. We had a guest previously that he mentioned the importance of embracing those silences, and that you could actually identify moments on the guest where, you could potentially keep digging, right? Or, they would give you micro signals that would allow you to identify, oh, this is a good spot that we can dive into, where most people just keep talking and then they don't give them a chance to, kind of like fully let the information sink in and then be able to continue down that thread, which is absolutely important. And the other thing, real quick, before handing you the mic, was that I've been listening to Tony Robbins lately. I'm trying to do the mindsets. Mm-hmm. So he was saying communication is 7% what you say, 38% tonality, and 55% body language. Right? Mm-hmm. I would argue that in comedy is more than 7% what you say. Definitely very important. But overall, right, the tonality, the body language, we talked about that. And I think part of it is embracing those silence, right? Be comfortable, your body language, be present, that when you have to take a pause, right? Let's say you're talking about something sad, or you're making a joke about something sad and you need a little bit of tension to build up, it's good to take that pause. But I feel like most people are maybe not as comfortable, or just thinking way too ahead, or thinking, what are other people going to think if I let them waiting for my next sentence?
Right.
That they just rush and they start talking way too fast.
No, that's very true. I think preparation is such an important thing, but you can over-prepare. And obviously, if you've written out every word and you're just reading it, we've all seen those commencement speeches, and those are boring. In lawyering, say I'm cross-examining someone in a deposition, you could definitely use pauses to get more. If I ask you a question in a deposition and say it's being videotaped or not, but after I ask it, you give an answer, yes, no, and then I lean in or I just keep making eye contact with you. Average person's going to think they're supposed to say something else. If you're a badass that can't be stared down, maybe not. But if I ask you a question, you answer something, and I just go like that, sometimes you're going to give more, and that's a useful tool to have.
I'm gonna start doing that in online interviews. Ask a question, then just be like, stir them down.
Fonzie, why are you looking at me that way? What's wrong with you?
You do a little winky wink.
An eyebrow raise, a little eyebrow raise.
Like, Fonzie, control yourself, man.
Why is Fonzie flirting with all the guests?
I know, we start getting love
Mike told me to do this. Mike just told me to lean in, you know.
I can't believe you fell for that.
Our audience
You just set
starts
me
switching.
up for the rest of my podcasting career.
Our audience starts switching genders. We're like, what is happening? Anyways, whatever.
They'll
Okay.
call you and wink.
I'm gonna make a quick parenthesis here. I made a note here that said, I'm gonna start a counter for your ums and a counter for your bad jokes.
That's number one.
So yeah, that's like number 3. But
No,
okay.
that's number one. We're 35 minutes in. Anyways, going back to the silence. I remember seeing an interview with Elon Musk, and he was being asked a question, and he will just take his time, breathe, think, and then answer.
Right.
And I think that's super valuable skill for any person that's in a conversation, in a podcast. And it was super impactful because I recognized that I was rushing a lot into answering different things. And sometimes we might not have the right answer, or we might have to think a little bit on the context of the element to actually give a good answer.
Right.
Right? And that was so impactful to me. It was a very small detail, right? We don't, the power of the silence after you say something, but also before you say something.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's that highlight. I'd highly recommend watch Elon's interviews because he does it a lot.
I'm just gonna say this real quick. I've told him, hey, what about we look into the arms and the eyes and all these things? But it had to be Elon Musk, the one that comes through
He did.
and takes all
You're
credit.
clearly not listening. I was not talking about the arms.
I know you were talking about the pause and the thinking. I'm packaging all of that into the arms and outs. But
just 2 arms, by the way. And then
okay.
The example with tonality as well is so important. And that I think this is the first time I hear from you on that side. But it happens a lot with now my kids, right? You have 5 kids, so lots of lessons to be learned there for us. But with Luca, my oldest, sometimes I call him with a certain tone and he almost runs away in a sense, right? Or maybe he did something that he was not supposed to do and I do that. And then immediately I catch myself and I change the tone, same word, and then he comes.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, look, buddy, I'm not mad at you. Let's talk about this, whatever, right? And it's so interesting. And then with my wife is one of those people I love dearly, but she has no filter on what she says.
I like her already.
Yes, amazing. And it's not the things that she says, also she has no filter on the tone I started to recognize.
Yeah.
And I bring it up to her. I'm like, babe, you said it this way. And
babe, you're hurting my feelings.
it happens often. But it's incredible how I've been practicing awareness on that side of things because words matter and now tonality matters as well, right? And if we're communicators, if we're putting our message out to the world, how we say it matters as much because it will carry emotion.
Yeah, that's right. And 2 thoughts on that, and neither of them are original thoughts, but I think they're really important. They've certainly been impactful to me. One is we tend, and this isn't just about broadcasting or content, it's about human relationships. I tend to listen to respond instead of listening to understand. And when you change that paradigm, when you listen to understand, obviously if you're interviewing me, at some point I'm going to respond. It'd be a horrible interview if I didn't. But the most important thing is that I understand what you're saying. I understand why you're saying it. And sure, if there's a response that's required, then ultimately I respond. But the old adage that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you speak. So I think that's an important one. The other one that you made me think about with your son, and it actually came up with my son. He didn't say it this way, but I remember years and years ago. He's 26 now, but when he was probably about 11 or 12, I was telling him something, and we went to bed. The next morning we woke up, and I was like, Anthony, I was disappointed in how you handled that situation. You weren't being nice to your sister. And he said, you're right. And he said, but I just didn't feel like you were listening to me. I know you were right, but I didn't feel like I was listened to. And that reminded me of the expression that people don't remember what you said. They remember how what you said made them feel. And that's how your son was responding. That's how my son responds.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure I'll never say anything in my entire life that's worth remembering. But I am making people feel a certain way, whether it's my kids, whether it's, wife, girlfriend, friends, you guys. That's going to be more important because that's how you think about me and maybe even how you think about yourself.
Yeah.
So lots of lessons there.
Absolutely. I love that phrase. Please, people don't remember what you say, but how what you said made them feel. There's so many times where I'm sharing the excitement of events that we've been to. It's like, whoa, we went to ClickFunnels and we watched Tony Robbins live. What an experience. And the people I'm talking to ask me, oh, so how did it go? What did you learn? What are these? I was like, actually, I don't remember anything that he said, but the emotions were so high. I was crying on that thing. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that power of emotions. Actually, emotions are the ones that get ingrained in your memory, which I think it talks on another aspect of content and probably comedy as well, right? I mean, comedy, you're driving this emotions. I think it could be a roller coaster, right?
Sure.
But on the content side as well, how are your stories driving emotions? If your content is just all straight factual, it might have a emotional coefficient very low.
Sure.
But the more stories you add in there, maybe, your tonality, your body language, that can increase that emotional aspect on your content, which is gonna, help the listener remember you a little bit better. And I think it's, again, the same with content. Fun story, actually. The way I discovered Kill Tony was I was watching a poker video. Some guy that he is super spiritual. It's super odd because he gambles, right, for a living playing poker, but he is super spiritual. So he moved to Bali. But he said, the only TV show that I watch with my wife is Kill Tony. And he said, there's something spiritual about comedy. It's like you see people stepping in stage with all their problems.
Sure.
And they, share their stories as hard as they've been. They're trying to get a laugh from the crowd, but they're putting themselves fully out there for the world to see. And now relating that back to emotion, once I started seeing Kill Tony, obviously the main purpose was I wanted a laugh. I wanted comedy. But some of the comedy that comes out, the story that these people share, and one of the things that Tony asked him is the story that you're sharing is true? Like, is this joke real?
Authentic.
Yeah. And a lot of them say, yeah, like this actually happened to me. I'm mind blown. I'm like, wow.
Right.
The level, how open are they? The level of vulnerability that they have to share this with the audience is absolutely amazing. And usually those, again, I might not remember the joke exactly, but those are the ones that I'm like, wow, those were some good comedians that stepped up in there. The same with content, right? The people that make you feel something with their content, those were some good pieces of content.
I think you have great stories for your set.
For my set.
One involves teeth.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know that.
That's a start. You gotta have good life experiences.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I'll think of that one.
Madison knows that one, so
yeah, she knows everything.
Nothing to lose on that one.
I might start with something more lighthearted for that. I don't even know if I'll do that. You lost, so you are walking on the open mic.
I think you should both come.
It's a challenge.
We'll think
we
about
might
it.
Accept it. I might need some tips on how do I write a good joke. Let's go with that. How does somebody write a good joke?
Well, you already touched on one. It's got to be authentic. I mean, there's some exceptions to that rule if it's just a word play or something like that. But, a joke about, raising kids or having a girlfriend or being an immigrant or growing up in Venezuela, that's going to be funny, or at least it's going to be the premise for something funny, something authentic about you. For the most part, you got to be likable. There are exceptions to that rule as well. There's the Andrew Dice Clays of the world. There's Chappelle, who, they've got their own followers in a different way. But even Chappelle, I would say, people like him, the ones that like him, and, therefore they like his stories. You got to have, and again, every rule I'm going to give you, there's exceptions, but you got to have something funny happening at least every 30 seconds. So even if it's a 10-minute story, say like a Chappelle story, if you dissect his jokes, there's a funny line or a funny little rabbit hole he takes you on about every 30 seconds because Generally, if people are coming out to laugh, they want to be laughing. They don't want to sit and wait for some really amazing build-up.
Yeah.
The problem is, even if it's hysterical at the end of 10 minutes, one laugh for 10 minutes is just not enough. It's not a good, it's not a good ratio.
Is there like a ratio laugh per minute type of
30
deal?
seconds is sort of a rule of thumb, and again, you could do different. Obviously, you could do more, but you don't want to do much less, because then you're putting all your metaphoric eggs in one basket, and you're hoping that the punchline's going to be rewarding enough to justify all that time.
Yeah.
Again, sometimes that works. For Chappelle's a good example of it.
Interesting.
He tells these really dry, poignant stories. I'm remembering one he tells about a buddy of his who he knew, and then he saw him years later, and he was working at Foot Locker, and I won't blow his punchline, but it's a long ways to get there. But because it was so serious and somber, and the things this guy had navigated, the reversal, the direction that it takes at the very last second, is a huge payoff.
Yeah.
But that's a big investment to make for somebody if you're not Chappelle.
That actually... It's crazy. I'm seeing a lot of parallels between comedy and content creation, right? You said don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Meaning in the terms of laugh per minute. Don't get only one laugh in a 10-minute set, because obviously your risk of failing is way bigger than if you do it every other 30 seconds, right? Then you will be having potentially 20 moments for laugh, right? In a 10-minute set if you do it every 30 seconds, which gets me thinking, don't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to content, right? Diversify your content strategy. We're actually talking a lot about this with our clients at the moment, and it was one of our predictions for 2024, which is there's going to be more series out on creators. So, for example, somebody that creates short form content, they're gonna do a series on how to run a podcast, but at the same time, we're also gonna do a series on funny skits that happen on podcasting, right? Like when, for example, my brother mispronounced words and all that type of stuff.
What?
30 seconds. Wait, 30 seconds. I'm going for my next one. But, all those things I think is super important for creators. And the fact that you said the same thing for comedians, I found this super interesting. So many parallels.
Yeah. Speaking is speaking. I agree with you on diversity. So, for example, if you had a podcast, you definitely wouldn't want both podcasters to have the same name, right? That would be a bad.
Yeah, that definitely is rough for sure. That's why we changed it into. He changed it for me into Fonzie.
We used to say,
and I had to embrace it.
We used to say that the sexy voice was Fonzie.
Right.
We don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
Because you have Fonzie.
Oh, you've been practicing your voice.
Trying to get sexier. It's on the ums. I think the ums make it sexy.
The ums.
But it's your dad's fault. Your mom and dad's fault. They're the ones that named you guys the same.
Yeah.
We say it was a marketing strategy from our mom.
Yes.
Honestly, I was the only one to benefit from that strategy because I'm the younger one.
Right.
So probably shouldn't be talking about this with a lawyer here in the room. But obviously, when you're younger than 21 and you go out to party and stuff like that.
Right.
Not just to party, to buy things on credit too. My credit was all messed up.
His ID came in perfect for me, right?
That's a good point. And then hand-me-downs, like personalized clothing. You could
personalized
wear all the same
clothing. Now, when we go at events, when we introduce ourselves, I've never actually introduced myself as Fonzie.
Right.
When we introduce ourselves, we're always, I'm Luis, and then they turn to me and I'm like, I'm Luis, and we're brothers. And people look at us.
Are you actual brothers?
Weird. Are you actual brothers?
No,
Right.
you're fraternity brothers.
Yeah, we're like, no, we're real brothers with the
Right.
same name. So that causes an impression on people.
Yeah.
Therefore, an emotion.
Right.
Therefore, they remember us next time they see us. Yeah. So that's what we say. Our mom was just a marketing genius. She doesn't know it. But all credit to her mom.
Yeah. People either remember both of you or neither of you.
Right, there we go.
Exactly.
Hopefully they do remember us.
They normally remember the best bro, which is this guy.
The bad jokes.
The bad jokes.
The guy. I think they call you the guy. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And the cookie guy.
Dude, Max.
The
Okay,
cookie guy.
so how long is the set that we have to prepare?
Oh, even if you're going to go out and just test it out, try it out. If you have 5 minutes ready, that's pretty good.
5 minutes? That's not, I was
Does that
thinking
seem like
about
a lot
like
or a
60
little?
seconds. Damn. 5
well,
minutes.
It's because you're used to watching Kill Tony, which is
but
60 seconds.
But I feel like that's a great start. Prepare 1 minute. Okay, so maybe this is how we break it down, right? Prepare a minute at a time.
Sure.
Focusing on the premise, which is the story. Something true that happened, right? Or that is true to us. And something funny has to happen every 30 seconds. So that will be like a good framework to kind of start writing.
That's a perfect framework. Yeah, and I mean, nobody's ever going to tell you to spend more time on stage. So if you got a good 30 seconds or 60 seconds or a couple minutes, then do
Just
that.
walk
Say,
out.
thank you very much. But more often, people blow the time, and the host will put a light up at the back, a flashlight that tells you it's time for you to wrap it up.
It's time to get it
the hook.
out of here.
We're like, clearly they're kicking me out, so I'm just gonna walk out.
But then
I
people
go,
will be like,
8
"Oh,
umps?
I'm just about
What?
done," and then they'll do another 5 minutes. So yeah, that's the worst thing when you're new at it. It's really hard to know when to end. But
Yeah.
it sounds like that won't be your problem. You're going with the
Oh,
kill
we
60
just
seconds.
we just continue. Mike, is there a routine you do for your art and your craft? Like how do you we're coming here to an end. Obviously, our craft is our podcast, so we do it 3 times a week. We try to stay as consistent as possible. We've done it plenty of times, and it's definitely helped us. On comedy, what I've heard is like you gotta write, write.
Yeah.
What's your how do you master your craft?
Yeah, I mean, I exercise that every day, and I do think I create more than the average comedian. It doesn't mean I create good, but I do write every day. A lot of comedians will get their tight 10 or get a really good set of 10 minutes, and then they'll add something periodically or occasionally. I write new jokes and try them out every week because, A, I invite people to come see me time and again, and so I feel like I owe them new jokes. Maybe not 100% new jokes, but some new jokes. What I do is I kind of, if you watch the late night shows, I write as if I work for Stephen Colbert. I will take the headlines and see something happening, hopefully not something tragic, but, whatever, the Air Alaska plane with the windows blown off, obviously a big deal now.
We're ready to get that 50% off flight. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I saw yesterday. I saw they were giving 30% off on their tickets, and I said, and everybody gets a window seat. Not, it's not a great joke, but it's
I laughed.
It's an
I loved
exercise,
it,
and talk about every 30 seconds. It's just a setup and a punchline, a setup and a punchline. So I'll do that for at least 20 minutes every morning.
Nice.
Some of those jokes never see the light of day. And here's the thing. If they're good jokes, they don't last very long, because if it's a joke about Christmas or New Year's or the Air Alaska plane, nobody's going to want to hear about that in 3 months.
Yeah.
At least I hope not.
Another
Unless it happens again.
another parallel with content right here, right? Trending topics and then evergreen content.
Correct.
That's
exactly
pretty
right.
much the two main buckets in which we produce content with our clients, which is trending, right? Is there anything right now that has attention to it that also you can leverage to divert attention towards yourself and towards your craft?
Sure.
Right? And then you use that. But again, that joke won't last too long. But then you get the evergreen ones, which I'm guessing in comedy might be the more your story, something more organic or something historical that has lasted the test of time.
Correct. And I'm always trying, you want to create those jokes about parenting, jokes about, more general airline travel, and hope that they last a while. And then you file them away, because I do a lot of corporate gigs, and sometimes you got to pull out the jokes that relate to this specific industry or what have you.
Wow.
I love it. This is awesome.
All right. Challenge accepted. I'm not putting a date on it.
Yes.
But I'll start writing and see
All
what comes up.
Do you present every week? Do you go on stage every week?
I do about 10 shows a month on average, which could be 5 in a weekend, none the next week, and then maybe 2 or 3 the following. On average, I do, and would be remiss if I didn't tell your listeners who are at least in the Northeast Florida area, February 17th.
Yes!
The Clean Comedy Series at Murray Hill Theater. Dry bar comedian Danny Johnson will be the headliner. Joey Nick will be the feature, and I'll be hosting. So come on out for that. Get your tickets now. It's a 300-person venue. Would love to fill it up and to have clean comedy every month at the Murray Hill Theater. I think there's a market for it. Obviously, Jacksonville's a very, it's got a lot of different people, but it also has a lot of churches. And I'm sometimes resistant to invite church friends to come hear me, even though I'm clean, because the next guy might be talking about dick jokes or something. Am I allowed to say dick jokes on your podcast?
Yes,
They
100%.
might be talking about those things. So, that could be funny, but it's not for everybody. So here's an opportunity for everybody who says they just want clean comedy to come to the Murray Hill Theater Clean Comedy Series February 17th.
Where can they buy the tickets?
Murray Hill Theater on their
Perfect.
website, on their event page, and you can go right there, get your tickets, and show up. It's Valentine's weekend. What a better place to bring your daughter, your wife, your girlfriend, probably not girlfriend and wife. I would separate those. this one show.
Fonzie, that's with you, buddy.
Madison, no, do not listen to this guy.
There's one Luis that's married.
I know.
Girlfriend.
He's just trying to keep it that way.
You're just saying that to get cookies.
Yeah, he didn't
I
give
love
me
it.
cookie, man.
I'm looking here. There's also an Eventbrite page where people
Correct.
can go on and they can get the tickets. We're gonna link that on the description. But I think it would be fun if we give out a few tickets. We can give out 5 tickets. First people to
Ooh,
DM,
baby, let's go.
DM us. I don't know, we want in or cookies, whatever. Just DM us that you want to go to the show, and we'll give you guys
that's
some
amazing.
tickets.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. And we'll be there. We'll be there for sure.
Didn't even know we had an audience here. You guys are hearing that too, right?
Yeah, the back of the room is very far. This
Yeah.
is the laugh from like minute 2.
See?
Yeah. First joke we told just came back.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Should have said and given it a chance to get back.
Absolutely.
It's all about the mindsets, I think.
There we go.
My
It's all about that.
Hey, man.
Closing loops.
Hey.
Let me tell you. Another parallel, right? We open a loop. I feel like that's actually, I've seen that a lot in comedy. I like geeking out on like breaking down things like,
Sure.
ooh, they said this thing like 5 minutes ago and now they're closing it down. I like structuring things like that. I think it's pretty cool.
It's called a callback, and that's a
callback?
It's so funny because people, I'll always build callbacks into my sets because it's like a magic trick. People are like, oh, he said that 10 minutes ago and now he's talking about it again. That's genius.
Yeah, I'm gonna share the story of the first ever callback I experienced.
Okay.
And it was amazing. It was actually a kid from my grade back home, back in Venezuela. We used to do this
From your grave?
my grade.
Oh, okay.
We used okay.
on, man.
We used to do these
Not yet,
trips.
anyway.
Yeah, not yet at least. We used to do these trips when we were in 4th, 5th grade, and 6th grade, where we would go a week with our classmates to somewhere in the country. It was a lot of fun.
Right.
And we went to this beautiful place called La Gran Sabana. Honestly, if you ever go to
Translating for you
Venezuela,
guys, it's the Grand Savannah.
like the Grand
Exactly.
Savannah.
Thank you for
Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it. It's incredible. That's where the Angels Falls is, right? The biggest waterfall in the world.
Wow.
And we had one night where everybody was sitting in a circle. We were telling jokes, and some were good, some were pretty terrible.
Right.
And this kid gets up and he starts sharing the most, I don't know, detailed packed, just like this story, joke ever.
Right.
He's like 2 minutes into the story, not even hitting a punchline or anything. And it's about this guy and a ring.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he says, and the guy gets upset and he just throws the ring into the ocean and he gets lost. And everybody's like, all right, and then what? And like there was like no punchline. It was terrible. It wasn't a joke. And the kid's like, all right, that's a joke. And everybody's like, what? This is horrible. Like, get out of here, dude. Like, everybody's like, boo. The classmates, we were like maybe 9, 10, something like that. We're like, oh, you suck. And then, I'm not kidding, 30 minutes later, he comes back. He's like, all right, I got another joke. I got to, revindicate myself. And everybody's like, all right, cool. And he starts another story and people are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Another one of this. And the story is about a diver. So he's talking how the diver all of a sudden found the ring.
Wow.
Dude, everybody cracked up. We're like, what? This is amazing. The setup that he did, he endured the booze of the whole crowd, then
planted
waited
the seed.
30 minutes, the patience that required to pull this off. And then he stepped in there and did that. I was like, this is once in a lifetime. This is prime Netflix special out here.
Wow.
So,
You need to track that guy down. That's something.
I know. He's
Who
in
is he?
he's in Canada, Santiago Rangel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's in Canada. Well,
Is he
last
doing
time I talked to him, he was in Canada. I don't know where he is right now.
You
No
need to
stand-up?
thank him. He left an impression on you.
He definitely left that impression. I was like, wow. So I love callbacks. When I see a good one, I'm like, this guy. They know.
That's
work
awesome.
well.
Dude, Maggie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, man.
you.
Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we head out?
No, I mean, if you're not following these guys, you need to. And if you're not doing business with them, I know they didn't ask me for that, but they do help produce my show, the My First Rodeo podcast. Love it if y'all listen to that. Follow me at
Absolutely.
Freed to Laugh. And, keep doing the great things you guys are doing, and I will be following your advice.
Thank you. I personally want to bring you back to talk a lot about the philanthropy side. I think that is absolutely amazing what you're doing there. And I also want to talk more about your podcasting side. You talked at the beginning, you mentioned that you are like to jump in, into things. You cannot do that in law, but I feel like you have this side of you where you like to try out things, and the philanthropy that you've put together, Free to Run, is a testament to that. I think that's something that you probably created with those emotions. Like, I want to help people. You started it, and now you've raised over $2 million.
Yeah, hey, we're up to 2.5, not to
2.5.
$2.5 million for pediatric patients and senior citizens. So
incredible.
Cool.
Incredible.
But,
so let's bring you back and talk more about that. I'm going to leave an open loop that will close. Who knows? But it's going to be more than half an hour.
That too, we talk about selling businesses, right? The new things, and so a lot of creators and people that have businesses, maybe that might be a thing that they're not thinking right now, but it's something that we should all be thinking.
On the lawyer side, if you need a lawyer comedian, I am
that's perfect.
One of them.
Absolutely. Sweet. Fonzie, anything else?
No, just thank you, Mike. It was awesome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning to the Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at Babes Rose Co.
That is right. If Mike here made you laugh and help you get one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.